There's a famous study called the electric shock boredom study that got participants to sit quietly in a room for 15 minutes with no distractions. That was the premise. Just before they started the experiment, they experienced a mild electric shock, and they said that they would pay money to not have to have that electric shock again because it was really uncomfortable. The kicker is when they started their 15 minutes of quiet time, they got given a button which they could use to shock themselves by pressing it. And 67% of men and 25% of women chose to zap themselves, even though they got absolutely no reward for doing so, just to give themselves a momentary distraction from the nothingness. This seems totally crazy, but it makes sense when you consider that we live in this world of constant stimulus, endless entertainment, with our brain seeking out novelty at every turn. And if we're ever left alone with our thoughts for just a second without a screen in front of us or something in our ear or some sort of notification going off, that uneasy feeling of discomfort can start to creep in just about right away. And that's what makes us seek those distractions immediately, because we don't like that feeling. And where does that feeling come from? I think it's just because we don't know how to sit with ourselves. Maybe there's some existential dread there. Maybe there's some things we haven't dealt with, some things we haven't thought about for a while that we don't want to think about. And as soon as we're sitting there, not distracting ourselves, we start thinking about it. And it would be a lot easier to force those feelings away and numb ourselves out and just go back to what we know. So we retreat to that safety of distraction, which is always there for us. There's this thing called boredom tolerance, which is essentially how good you are at being bored, your ability to do nothing, actually do nothing when the opportunity arises, rather than your version of doing nothing means you're on your phone or you're watching TV or you're doing anything other than just sitting there staring at the wall or the ceiling, just thinking your thoughts. And building boredom tolerance is actually a really good idea because it can work towards reducing your feelings of anxiety. It creates space for new ideas and creativity. It gets you off the dopamine hamster wheel for just a minute so you can rest, and it allows you to be more present with the people in your life. My challenge for you this week is the next time you feel bored, just sit with it for a few minutes, work on that boredom tolerance, and don't reach for the easy out of grabbing your phone and going back into that world of distraction. And I'm absolutely terrible at this. I'm always reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching TV, scrolling on my phone, listening to music, talking to my partner, talking to my bunny rabbit, doing absolutely anything I possibly can to not just sit there and feel things and think things, which is probably something I could improve on. So I'm going to do it too.